Good evening, friends. For the past 7 years, one of my most important personal identifiers has been as a mentally ill person. And over those years, I have accumulated a colorful and extensive list of diagnoses. With that list has come a wealth of experience about what it means to be mentally ill. I'm aware that some people may be uncomfortable with this term, but for my purposes tonight, I will be using it as a self-identifier and do not intend in any way to force the term onto others. Everything in this presentation is based on my personal life experience. If you are curious to learn more about any of the conditions I discuss, I encourage you to do your own research. For now, I would like to welcome everyone to my Headspace. I'm starting at the root of my mental illness tree, anxiety. Anxiety, in its most basic definition, is a disorder that causes a level of fear and stress in an individual that interferes with daily life. The level of stress any other person might have while in a boxing match with a grizzly bear is a level I have when I lose my hair tie or I'm crossing a sparse intersection. It is the loss of control of rational thought in day-to-day situations. Anxiety is many things. Anxiety is the feeling of having to fight a battle anytime you want to get something done. Tasks looming over your head like a ferocious monster that you are unable to beat but unable to flee from. A constant cycle of fighting and losing and winning with no sense of victory or accomplishment. It's the feeling of your head swimming, thoughts rippling and fluctuating like a school of fish that the very sight of makes you dizzy and nauseous. It is the feeling of being stranded in an ocean-like void with only your fears, worries, and failures to keep you company. Anxiety is looking at your life through the holes of a box, like a sad cartoon who shuffles about in their makeshift hiding place, unable to escape past the confines of their cardboard prison. It is your head, spirited away by the clouds and reaching even though your arms are too short, because you know if you cannot get it back, people will say you didn't try hard enough. Anxiety is like a supernova, both exploding and collapsing at the same time. Everything around you and everything in your mind becoming bigger and bigger, while you become smaller and smaller. It is climbing a rope ladder that never ends, the rest of the world always just in sight above you, wondering what is taking you so long. It is the apocalypse, every day, but you survive, and it is exhausting. The following pieces were produced during a panic attack, which I experience as a sudden certainty of imminent death. Take a moment to quietly compare these to my previous pieces, and try to imagine the state of my brain that led me to produce these images. Next is a much less familiar condition that is surprisingly common, FND, or Functional Neurological Disorder. This large family of disorders is peculiar because it presents with neurological symptoms that are not compatible with any currently established medical illness. Here is just one way that FND affects me. This is a video of me purchasing paint for this project 6 months ago. My arms are flapping back and forth and my head is jerking side to side. If you're curious, try copying the motions you see in the video as I talk. The motions shouldn't be gentle and either leave your wrists completely loose or lock them firmly. These involuntary motions are a subtype of functional neurological disorder called a functional movement disorder. It leads to movements in my hands, arms, shoulder, neck, head, face, eyes, mouth, and tongue that are out of my control. This is a very old disorder, and it is believed to be the cause of the uncontrolled movements made by the young girls in Salem, Massachusetts that led to the Salem witch trials. When I was first diagnosed, I missed 10 days of school over 4 weeks, during which I couldn't even drink out of a glass or stand upright. Just a few hours of even moderately strong shaking will leave your arms and head feeling waterlogged and heavy, like they're a separate part of your body that will eventually just give out. But there are no breaks, just riding the rise and fall of the tide as the motions go from deathly calm to violently angry. Your body twists and contorts in ways that it isn't supposed to. An impulse going down your arm, wrist, fingers to move in a way that bodies outside of horror films really shouldn't. It is the surrender of your control as you force yourself to breathe and slowly relax, even as your body is trying to unscrew your appendages at every joint. This picture is the only piece of art I managed to make on my movements while they were happening violently during the duration of this project, and it is from 3 weeks ago. Another way FND affects me is that sometimes it takes away my voice. During certain periods of time, ones of high anxiety usually, I lose my voice, words getting stuck in my throat in the least poetic way possible. Once this lasted an entire week. I'm ending with my most recent monsters, 2 hearing conditions that are tangled together in a mess of wire and fishhooks. First is misophonia, a condition where your brain amplifies quiet sounds and triggers a violent fight or flight reaction. Trigger sounds are those produced by people or animals and are often repetitive. Second is hyperacusis, a condition where your sensitivity to sounds is higher than normal and the brain registers loud noises as acute pain. In my world, every sound around me can feel like a physical assault. The meaning of each sound is drowned out by the volume of the greater cacophony that exists in day-to-day life. It's like your head is full of trash, a day's worth of abuse dribbling out of your ears. Each sound, a rusted can, a crumpled water bottle, plastic can holder, crammed into the limited space between your ears. I crave the silence at the end of the day when I can empty the trash and settle into the quiet. Now, many times during the 4 months that I worked on this project, I wondered, are my feelings something that can be conveyed to other people? I'll let you all be the judge of that. But before I sign off, I'd like to tell you why I think mental health is so hard to communicate and understand in the first place. Here's my theory. The works that I produce for this project can be divided into 2 categories, metaphorical and reactionary. Metaphorical pieces are ones that use recognizable imagery, color, and vivid details to express an emotion. They're pieces you can sit down with and read into for a long time, parsing out the allegories and metaphors into a coherent message. Reactionary pieces are just that, reactionary. There is no detailed thought behind them, and they don't use recognizable shapes and images. They're a projection of my brain in the moment and represent what I experience in the most literal sense while it is happening. Well, looking through these works, I noticed a strange pattern. The more reactionary a piece was, the more honest I felt it was to my true feelings. And the more metaphorical it was, the more contrived and mechanical the messages in it felt, manufactured. While writing the script for this presentation, I was constantly frustrated with how unemotional it was. I was never unconfident that I could explain my mental illnesses in a very accurate and clinical way, but no matter how I wrote it, it never carried any feeling. It was gray and lifeless. This was a frustration I have carried for many years. I've been praised many times for how articulate I am, able to rationalize what I go through to people who don't understand. People like my parents, my friends, my teachers, and the parents of others who have come to me asking, what is wrong with my child? But they listened, they processed, they used analogies to relate, but their understanding was shallow and emotionless, and I never felt like anyone truly understood. At some point, I realized that mental health communication is just like my art. I can sit here all day and tell you a heavily processed and metaphorical rendition of what I live and think and feel. But what I say has to be processed and manufactured to the point of distortion for all of you to be able to process it. It is cold and clinical communication that yields no deeper understanding. No understanding is deeper than what can be experienced when you see someone screaming, crying, binging, sleeping for 18 hours in one day. It is irrational, it is uncontrolled, it is reactionary, and it is honest. I'd like to leave you with the idea that mental illnesses are illnesses. They are not logical, they are not rational, and they do not speak in a language of words. My name is Zoe Phillips, and I am ill. Thank you for your time and attention this evening, and a special thanks to Sandy Spring Friends School, the Senior Projects Committee, and Eduardo Colon.